Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. It is now time to start. So from now, we would like to start the thematic session 3, strengthening the synergies between waste, climate, and SDGs. From here, we would like to have Mr. Onogawa to serve as the moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Now we would like to start the thematic session 3, TT3.
Participants, please allow me to speak in Japanese, as majority of the participants today were the Japanese people, but quite a good quality of simultaneous translation will be provided through the session. Okay.
So as the introduction of this session, I would like to share with you what I expect from this session and what we are trying to achieve through this session. Oh, it skipped. A little bit shocking, or should I say, I would like to start off with sharing with the data that's hard to imagine. This is provided from OECD in 2015, and this is a survey conducted by OECD for the member countries of 35 countries regarding the waste management options and how the waste management is done. And within this data, as the group, there's recycling and composting as one genre group. And besides this, there's incineration listed here, and whether they're incineration with energy recovery or incineration without energy recovery. And as a Japanese person, what is shocking about this data is that we believe that we have been conducting waste management in a pretty well manner. But just looking at this data, on the left-hand end, in terms of recycling percentage, we are ranking 8th out of 34 countries. And if you look at the right-hand country, overall OECD member countries, the recycling ratio is 34%. Recycling and composting is 34%. However, in the Japan's case, it's only 19%. Germany, that we feel that they're doing something similar to Japan, recycling and composting. It's 65%. It is the third bar from the right. And within the Asian region, a very close neighboring OECD country, well, in Asia, it's only South Korea and Japan, but even in Korea, it's 59%. So you can see that the Japanese recycling and composting ratio is relatively low. And this is actually a norm of the result because about 80% of the waste is incinerated in Japan. And through that, we were able to achieve two major targets. The first is that to reduce the waste volume that will be going to the final treatment, and also trying to maintain the sanitary conditions of the final waste treatment facility. And that is why Japan has adopted the incineration technology, and that has been a success to this point. However, looking at this from a different perspective at this point, there are various discussions that can be held, is what I think. And regarding the organic waste or organic material, how much of that do we have? It just happens to be that we have this conference in Yokohama today. So this is the data regarding the Yokohama City's waste situation. This is the latest data. The blue-colored area is the so-called organic waste, 33%. In addition to this, the gray part, which is 11%, this is green waste. What this is that the lawn is mowed in the parks, and the trees are cut. So those type of a green waste is 11%, and this is also considered as an organic waste. So adding the two, 44% In Japan's case, in Yokohama's case, is the waste, organic waste that can be incinerated. And a similar data is taken for Asian, South Asian countries. 57% is food waste or green waste. This is the average of the South Asian countries. And on the left-hand bar chart, we look at by country in this region. Well, about around 60%. Depending on the city, approximately 80% is this type of waste. It's frequently seen that way. So, given this type of waste, how can we use it as a better resource? What happens if we look at from that perspective? The Japanese government has this promotion of a sound material cycle-based society. They have focused on a society that is focusing on the cycling of materials. And furthermore, using these type of materials as resources. The importance of that, regardless of whether it is Japan or other countries, this is important, is what we think. As the discussions points for later on, I am pointing out the major points. Waste treatment, in a way, all depends on how the separation of waste is done. Towards this, Japan or the Asian countries, how can we move forward our efforts towards that? And the policy makers and the government, how can they contribute to this effort? That is one discussion that I would like to have. As the first speaker, we have from the UNEP. There is International Environmental Technology Center in Osaka. We have Miss Claudia from there participating. So from that perspective, or from the UN perspective, she will be sharing her thoughts regarding this.
Thank you. And good morning, well, good afternoon now. I would like to speak a little bit, just quickly introduce, Onogawa-san mentioned that I'm from UNEP, so United Nations Environment Programme, International Environmental Technology Center, a bit of a mouthful, so I'm going to refer to it as UNEP ITC. We support developing countries to implement sustainable solutions to environmental challenges, focusing on a holistic waste management. We have a global footprint. We are based in Osaka. We have a global footprint of projects that range between policy support to national and city level governments, to capacity building in various waste streams, and in on-site and city and country level implementation of projects. We have, with regard to the topic of this session today, I would like to share with you some of the fundings that we have had, studying quite closely the status of waste management globally. So through the Global Waste Management Outlook that we published in 2015, and then we furthered our research, going a bit more into the specifics of each regions around the globe, and also looking at thematic streams. For example, we have studied how waste management, what are the main challenges and what the status of waste management in the mountain regions, which are quite cross-cutting around the globe, but have very specific elements that impact basically how we manage our waste. Same goes for the small island developing states. So if we look a bit, I've tried to compile all the funding and compare a bit the funding that we had through all these publications. And if we look at the main regional trends, we can see that waste generation, so Asia is the largest waste generation, 280 million tons of waste generated per year. And the waste generation is expected to increase by more than 50% by 2050. Collection services have improved worldwide, but there is still very inadequate, particularly in Africa. We have disposal. Disposal is still done pretty much in most countries around the world, particularly in developing countries, mostly done in inadequate ways, where landfills are really dump site, and most waste is dumped in the environment or openly burned. Composition of waste, most, as Zonagawa-san mentioned already previously, the large part of the waste that we generate is really organic waste. We have a share of between 46 and 57% of organic waste that is wasted every year, and followed by paper and plastic with a share growth annually. And that said, recycling, which should be one of the focuses of our interventions, recycling is still low. It's still low and is driven by the informal sector in many countries, and there is huge potential to harness in terms of scaling up recycling. You will see here when I mentioned that in Asia is too diverse. So we have data for from the Asia Waste Management Outlook, but indeed Asia is such a wide country and includes such a wide range of economies that we were not able to, if we compile all the data for Asia, we underestimate or overestimate grossly. So we have gone ahead and developed sub-region specific for Asia. So based on the research that we have conducted, basically, the key challenges that we have found in waste management implementation can really be grouped in 5 categories. First of all is legislative barriers. So there is a lack of enabling environment from a legislative perspective and governance. Mostly countries have a framework, legislative framework for waste management, but there is very strong lack of enforcement and governance inefficiencies and failures that go with it, which we can strongly work on to improve the situation. There are financing shortfalls, so insufficient funding to fund waste management activities. With regards to technology, that's another big challenge that we find in many countries. Many countries still lack the environmentally sound technologies to actually implement sound waste management. And moving on to the next set of barriers that we have found quite generally in many countries is stakeholder participation. Stakeholder participation is still very low, both at the legislative decision making and also at the investment technology type of choices. All of this impact quite greatly on the level of efficiency of the services. So at the point that most of the waste that is collected is not properly sorted, treated, or disposed. So we know, we have understood quite well the fact that waste generation is increasing greatly, but what are the drivers for resource demand in a region of diversity such as Asia Pacific? First of all, we are looking at a region that hosts currently more than 50% of the world population. So, and this is expected to grow from 4.2 billion people today that have a home in Asia-Pacific region to 9 billion by 2050. Several countries in the Asia-Pacific region have experienced very rapid economic development, and there is a growing middle class that, of course, as it grows richer, has changing consumption patterns. So the short point we can gather from this is really that the richer we get, the more we discharge. And it is foreseen that lower income cities in both Africa and Asia will double the municipal solid waste generation within the next 15 to 20 years. So what we really need to try and stop this trend is really to try and decouple the quick economic growth from the resource use and the environmental impact that we have. So economies from what we use and how we waste, in fact, how we use and how we waste. One success story that I want to share is really the one of Japan, which managed to reduce their material consumption by 2010 down to the level of 1970. This is what we call the absolute decoupling of economic growth versus resource use. So what I'm trying to get to is that we need a paradigm shift in the way we consider waste management. So we pass from the 20th century mass consumption society, where the main key principle was really mass consumption, mass production, and mass disposal, to a new way of looking at things, at economies. We want a more sound material cycle society where basically we promote the reuse, reduce, recycle principle, where we change the main question. We don't wanna, the question that we are asking now, how to build the economies, is how can we extract the most value from our resources in order to preserve them without impacting on future generations. So this is really the concept of circular economy, the circularity. My colleague Asad here will probably know already about this example from India, but the estimated benefit of circular economy in India by 2030, if we were able to pull all the strings, so in the ideal case scenario, India could benefit 4.5 trillion US dollar by 2030. Probably that is also the explanation and the background behind the strong drive of the government to try and push private sector, civil societies, and people to really join hands and work on implementing a circular economy approach, a more sustainable approach. So how do we want to achieve this vision in terms of trying to decouple, in terms of achieving a more sustainable way of manage our waste? First of all, so two strategies is the one that we propose. First of all, we want to bring waste under control. And secondly, we want to harness the opportunities of waste as a resource. All of this together, the two strategies together, will of course work hand in hand with the barriers that I've highlighted before. So improving capacity and awareness, increase the evidence base, so data collection, monitoring, improve of data for evidence-based policy making. Of course, increase and enhanced legislation and its enforcement, and improvement and uptake of sustainable technologies. So just to conclude, what are the lessons learned from our experience so far supporting developing countries? It's fundamentally that there has been great improvement across the globe, but there is still a lot that needs to be done. Financing a technology is still a major barrier. So what we need to focus on is really to try and create an investment environment that is enabling for the waste management sector, for investing in the waste management sector. Political will is there. We have seen the waste agenda rise quite high in the political debate, but enforcement is still lacking, and there is still a lot of support needed from a national and city level perspective in terms of try to overcome all the barriers that I've highlighted. In a nutshell, this is the messages that I brought here to share with you today. I know that there will be a question and answer session. In the meantime, I thank you very much for your attention.
So thank you, Claudia. So let me invite Doi-san as the second speaker. Doi-san wa Kankyou Shou.
Mr. Doi is participating here on behalf of the Ministry of the Environment, Japan.
皆さんこんにちは。
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. My name is Doi, that's in charge of the Environmental Remediation Resource Circulation Bureau of Ministry of the Environment, Japan. Today, I would like to share with you what Japan is doing regarding food waste and food loss. First of all, we have the food recycling law in Japan. This in Japan is regarding the individual materials. Together, we have 6 types of recycling law, and this is one of them. And other than, we have the containers and packaging recycling law. We have the construction material, home appliance material, and small size home appliance recycling laws. But this food recycling law is putting its focus on the organic wastes. In 2000, this was enacted. And with the Ministry of Agriculture, Fishery and Forestry and Ministry of Environment, we are both in charge of this law, and this is implemented. The key point of this law is that this industries that are focusing on food material, we have set the target of the food recycling. Currently, as for the food manufacturing businesses, they have achieved 95% of the food material recycling. They are showing a very high level of recycling ratio. On the other hand, depending on the business type, there are some that are difficult. For example, the restaurant businesses. Most recent number was 32% in terms of the recycling rate. Based on this law, the targets that need to be achieved is set. But regarding the restaurant businesses, we are telling them to aim for 50%. However, the actual situation is difficult to achieve that. Therefore, recently, various apps are used so that food loss will not occur. And these type of efforts are starting. Therefore, we believe that this is going to further develop moving forward. And also within this law, businesses who are generating over 100 tons per annum, they have the obligation to have a regular reporting. And also a business that is generating over 100 tons, but their efforts are not implemented or moving forward, we give them warning recommendations or publicize this or give them legal orders or penalize them. As the reality issue, what kind of waste is generated? We are showing you the overall food loss materials. The food manufacturing businesses, retailing, and food services, restaurants. Up to here is the industrial businesses, and the remaining is household. And also, the type of the waste, there are the edible components and not edible components, such as the skin of the food material, vegetables, fruits. And regarding that, various measures can be considered. What is especially difficult in the industrial area is the food services businesses. What are we going to do about this? And also, the household waste, which is difficult to see the implementation situation of the measures. These two are the focus point of importance to further move their efforts forward. This slide is showing how much waste is generated within Japan in terms of food materials. First of all, as food that are supplied as food, we have about 80 million tons. And these food materials are processed or consumed in the household. And part of that is generated as food loss. The household and the food-related business entities, annually we have close to 28 million tons per year. And this is further breaking it down in detail. Food waste overall is approximately 28 million tons. However, with the commercial or businesses sources and household sources are the two sources for this waste. And when we look at this, in terms of volume, there's more generated from the commercial sources. However, having said that, the volume from the household sources is also fairly large. And especially what's a hot topic is a food loss. And there's about 6.4 million tons. The edible part, even it is edible at the end, it still becomes a loss or waste. Compared to the total organic waste volume, the leftover at the household, there's a large number of food loss generated from there. That is why measures for this area is extremely important. And last June, based on the fundamental plan for sound material cycle society, which is the fourth basic plan that has been approved by the cabinet, we have set a target of 50% reduction. And this is the state of utilization of food waste, including the flow. These are the generated volumes, and over here, how these are treated is shown on this slide. The important issue here is, as mentioned by Mr. Onogawa before, in the case of Japan, as for the household wastes, almost all of the volume is incinerated. Partially, the organic waste is collected and recycled to become fertilizers or methane gas. But the amount of that or the volume of that is extremely small. Later on, I will touch upon this. But there are several key points here. Well, in the long years, the local governments have been promoting to make waste into fertilizers. However, the receiver of these fertilizers, such as the farmers, whether this fertilizer was up to the quality as a product that will be accepted by the farmers, this part is not progressing sufficiently. However, in the city of Kyoto, starting this fall, the organic waste will be separately collected and turned into methane gas. They are developing the facility to do so. Therefore, using new technology, they will be advancing recycling. On the other hand, as for the commercial or industry side waste, the majority is recycled. From one business, same property material is generated. So it is generated in a way that food manufacturing business is conducted in that way. Therefore, from that waste, a high-quality fertilizer can be created and can be accepted by the farmers or agricultural businesses. So there are parts in Japan that the efforts are not moving forward, and the one cause of that is that whatever it is, such as fertilizer, when that is produced, we have the liquid fertilizer that generates. And if that liquid fertilizer is used in the pastures, then there's no cost to treat that. However, in Japan, other than the Hokkaido area, there are not many farmers that can receive this liquid fertilizers. There's no area to use it, and there is also an impact on the underground water. So there is an issue of the treatment of this liquid fertilizer that is existing right now. And as a measure to resolve this situation, we will collaborate with the existing sewage or wastewater treatment facility to utilize this liquid fertilizer as a model project. We are working on this right now. meaning that without that much of a cost occurring, we are trying to resolve the issues that we face right now. And lastly, as you have seen before, in the overall picture, especially in the commercial side and industry side, the recycling is progressing quite well. However, still, the food lost remains as a main issue. As the parliamentary bill to be created, we created a new law regarding the food loss. Various things are written here, but the major point is over here. The responsible minister is a member of the food loss discussion meeting of Conference on Promotion of Food Loss Reduction is conducted. And the specific contents will be further discussed in this meeting so that we will be able to realize a further food loss reduction. So the situation in Japan is as I have explained up to this point, but as Mr. Onogawa mentioned before, the recycling ratio of Japan is not that high yet, and we need to improve that situation. And within those efforts, in terms of volume and weight, the organic waste consists quite a bit of that total waste, and we need to work on the recycling of this also. And within the discussions and presentations that are conducted today, we would like to receive some clues to do so. And I look forward to that. And that is all for my presentation. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Doi. Now I would like to invite our next speaker.
Walsh. He is the founder of EcoPro Environmental Service based in Indore City in India. So, Mr. Walsh, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Basically, I'm going to present a case study on which I have worked in the city of Indore. It is based in the central part of India. And the good thing about our city is it has been declared as the cleanest city of India in a row for last 3 years. And these are the actions why it has been declared as the cleanest city, that we have worked a lot on developing the entire waste management system, and we have focused on a big way on the concepts of 3R, and secondly on decentralized processing of waste. So how we have done that, I'll be going to share that with you. Basically, when we talk of waste management, I think so these are the basic integrated components, and wherein it is very important that we have to, if we want to bring about a big change into waste management systems and technologies throughout the South Asian region, particularly in country like India and all, then we have to have a big way public consultation, stakeholder consultation into it. And based on that policies, if we come up with a model of 3R, that leads to success. And that is what we have done in India, because the entire project is based on 3 words, that we have to make our city garbage bin free, dust free, and litter free. Then your city is clean, and thereafter to develop a beautiful processing system based on decentralized, so as to reduce the transportation cost and to reduce the carbon footprint, and how to turn into a circular economy. So this is how initially we established this type of system. I'll be moving fast with all the slides. These, because it is a case study, I'm just showing you the photographs and the types of vehicles and systems we developed for transportation and all. These are our transfer stations. This is how, again, it is very important to provide proper safety and health services to our sanitary workers also. So we have worked a lot. Now you see the level of segregation we have achieved. This is one of our centralized composting unit, wherein the city generates about 1,200 metric ton of waste per day. And out of that, we receive around 550 metric ton of waste food waste and green waste in a segregated manner, and we are making compost out of it. We have this various options. There is a mobile composting unit also, wherein we have this food joints and all, and where large quantity of waste is generated and they don't have space to process it. So we have come up with the idea of this mobile composting van. This is what today I'll be talking about. This is decentralized processing through biomethanization or biodigestion technology. And again, what we have done is that we have converted it into bio-CNG. We have developed 2 plants, one of 20 TPD and another of 15 TPD. And we are coming up with 2 more plants of 200 TPD each. So by December 2019 in Indore, we will be having these 4 plants wherein we will be generating around 5,000 kgs of bio-CNG. And presently, right now, through this bio-CNG, we are operating 15 city bus, public transport buses, and we have a target to increase to 100 buses by December 2019. So this is what we have worked. And again, we are coming up with the decentralized units so as to reduce the carbon footprints generated from the emissions of the vehicles. And secondly, we are converting, this is a better reutilization technique. And I think this can be a very, very good technology for the entire Southeast Asia region, wherein we can say that we can have small plants which are cost effective, first of all, and through this decentralized manner, we can reduce the transportation cost. So when we talk of this 3R system and all these type of technologies, I think are needed. So basically, as you know, this biomethanation is a process. I don't know that I need to explain it, but this is what is the basic, how when we do this biomethanation process of the organic waste or biodigestion, we get basically a mixture of gases, which is methane, CO2, and H2S. And that is what we have done is that we have come up with a gas cleaning and separation unit. So this is what is biodigestion and biogas. Now, as I have told you the advantages. First of all, we should know and we should understand the advantages of biogas. That if you formulate biogas and if you don't pressurize it and if you don't clean it, then it is of no use. This technology is an old-age technology being used in many parts of the South Asia, but there was no cleaning and gas separation systems was there. So for the first time in India, we came up with the idea of gas cleaning and separation unit. So first of all, from the mixture, we removed H2S, that is what we have extracted sulfur and we released hydrogen. Thereafter, we separated CO2, and again, we are using it, purifying it and using it into fire extinguishing and carbonated products. So we get product number 2, product number 1 as sulfur, product number 2 as CO2, and product number 3 is methane, that is CH4. So our target was to purify methane to a level of 95%, and presently through our this gas separation and cleaning unit, we are getting methane in tune of something 97% purity. The methane supplied by the Gas Authority of India, the CNG, their supply has a purity of 92 to 93%, and due to this 97% purity in methane, the public transport bus, when it runs with this Government of India GAIL company supplied methane, it gives an average of 3.5 kilometer per kg, whereas with this bio-CNG, our buses are giving an average of 4.1 kilometer per kg. So there is an increase in average, you get a cleaner gas, you reduce fossil fuel, and these all are the benefits of bio-CNG, and secondly, it is a very low-cost technology. And then again, as per the need, it can be scaled up. So we have developed some business model out of it, and from 25 metric ton onwards, it turns out to be a PPP model, wherein a government can give a one-time viability gap funding or any financial institution or international agency if can fund some viability gap in tune of 50%, then on a business model, these plants can be developed and can be run in a sustainable manner. Now, this is what is the process flow diagram of the entire process. And after cleaning this and obtaining this 97% pure methane plus 95%, we compress it to 210 bar pressure, and then we fill it into this ladder. Initially, with this technology, that was the problem, that you are having the battery limits. But once you compress it and fill it into the cylinder and you cascade it, then it is a product. You can carry it anywhere. It can be used in industry. It can be used in power generation. It can be used in a number of various applications. So this is the plant. This is a 20-ton plant, which is located into the vegetable and fruit market in Indore. And because it was developed in situ, so the payback period of this plant is hardly 3.5 years, and that is from the reduction of transportation. And secondly, the quantum of, we are getting around 1,000 kgs of bio-CNG from this plant. So this is what the technology is, double-stage digestion. This is what the process is. And this is what I'm talking about, this gas separation and cleaning units. You can see that this is first is desulfonation. We do this desulfonation activity, and we extract sulfur. This is this CO2 gas cleaning. We clean and we extract CO2, and then we fill it into the balloon. And this is this methane cleaning unit. And from here, this methane is pumped back, and it is put into this balloon. And from here, it is compressed and pulled into, you see, this is how we compress it through the compressor to 200 bar pressure, and we fill it into the cascades. Once we have this cascade, it can be transported anywhere, and it can be utilized anywhere. So that makes these projects very viable and supportive. Now you see, we have come up with this cascade, we have come up with this gas dispensing unit, and we are utilizing it into our public transport. So by December 2010, we will be able to run 100 this public transport buses through this bio-CNG plant, and we'll be having surplus bio-CNG to sell it to industries, or we can, and these all are projects. These are zero waste technologies. No waste is coming out. And the second product what we are getting from this is good quality compost. So even if we want to use it as a compost fertilizer, we can utilize the product which is coming, the digested biomass which is coming. Or even if we don't want to use it as fertilizer, as said by sir, that some of the farmers are not utilizing it. So even after that, if you extract the moisture, it can be put it into the incineration plant also. Or you can make pellets out of it, and it has a number of utilities. So that way, it is a zero waste technology. Initially, when you need water for making the slurry, again, through the solid liquid separation, the same water is recycled, and only 2,000 liters of, in this 25 metric ton plant, you just need 2,000 liters of water to be added into that makeup water. You don't need any. And nothing is coming out. Whatsoever you are getting from this technology is a product. So zero emissions, zero waste technology. So this is the cost-benefit analysis I'm telling of. It is in terms of USD. So this is how you can see the payback periods of small and bigger plants. So this is what I have tried to tell you, that how low-cost technology it is, and the payback periods are very, very small. Secondly, now, again, Government of India in a big way has accepted this technology and have come up with a policy wherein all the oil manufacturing and oil selling companies of the country, we have some 4 to 5 big companies who are into this oil business or petroleum business. They are asked to support all such units and all such plants. And in just last 3 months, The Government of India has come up with this policy in January 2019, and in just 3 months, some 40 to 50 concessions has been signed with various oil companies, wherein it is mandatory for the petroleum and oil company to buy back the bio-CNG generated at a fixed rate. So this is a very, very supportive and important policy, and I request that all the South Asian countries should come up with such policies to support these technologies, because in future, I think these are zero waste technologies, they are very low cost technologies, and ultimately with government support, it can become a long-term sustainable model, and this is how we can do, we can practice, we can work on a circular economy. So again, then in Indore, for this dry fractions of the waste, we have developed this material recovery facilities wherein we segregate. So out of 1,200 metric ton, as I've told, Indore is the city wherein we process the 100% waste into scientific manner, and only 4%, the silt and dust is going to the engineered landfill. Remaining 96% of the waste is either recycled, all the dry waste is recycled and sent into for the material recovery and process, various processes. And all the organic waste is either converted into bio-CNG or compost. And this is how, for this very reason, Indore has been declared as the best model for the entire country. And now Government of India is taking it as a model for the entire country. Now, this is what is this automated material recovery facility, wherein the entire, at the first stage, wherein we have this small particles of dust and all, so we'll have a robotic segregation, and thereafter we'll be utilizing the rack pickers and all this machine separator, density separation will be there, sensors will be there to identify the products, because now Government of India has come up with the concept of this EPR for particularly plastic waste, extended producer responsibility. So now all the plastic manufacturing companies and people who are into the plastic business, they have to support this system also. And now again, then for this, we have come up with a concept wherein we make, through reverse polymerization, we produce oil from the waste plastic. So again, we have come up with a pilot project, and we are coming up with a big project, this 5 ton per hour capacity plant is working since last 6 months, and from 5 tons we are getting around 3,000 liters of oil from this. This is how we have reclaimed the legacy waste, and we are converting into a city forest. This was the situation of our legacy waste. We were having around some 50 lakh metric ton of legacy waste. We create the entire legacy waste through this mining and bioremediation process, and now we are converting it into a city forest. So this is how we have created, because I think the involvement of public and awareness among the masses is the key when we talk of the waste management in India and in South Asia region. And this is how, in a big way, we have included all the various stakeholders in the waste management chain and all the citizens into our process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Warushi. Very much informative and interesting information you had contributed, I think. So
this is the last speaker that I would like to invite next. Within Japan, this is a gentleman who is rolling out a specific business, and so he will be showcasing how much progress he is making. This is Mr. Kageyama from J Biofood Recycle Corporation regarding the topic of biogas power generation business that he rolls out. So the floor is yours. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am J Biofood Recycle Corporation's Kageyama. I would like to showcase the biogas power generation business that we conduct by recycling food waste. At the outset, as the gentleman from the Ministry of the Environment showcased, I would like to repeat the industry landscape within Japan, first of all. Today, in Japan, with government policies, the food recycling, manufacturing, delivery, and sales businesses is progressing in reducing food losses. So with food recycling, that is one solution to reducing the volume. But then still, despite those initiatives, food waste is generated. And so there are three forms of recycling that is prioritized to make good use of. First of all, we produce animal feed. Secondly, fertilizers. And then thirdly, methane fermentation. So you can see here on the upstream industries, in wholesale and retailing of food products, there is little contamination, and so that facilitates the production of animal feed and fertilizers. However, in the downstream industries, such as restaurants, for example, you see a lot of foreign particles, and you cannot create animal feed, and so this was incinerated and disposed of. But with the Japanese government rolling out the food recycling law, the enhancing of food recycling for this food residue is being promoted. So given that trend in our industries, that's how our company, J Bio Food Recycle Company, was born. So let me showcase our business portfolio. It was in August last year that we completed our factory and we ramped up our production. And there are four investors: a JFE Engineering Corporation, which is a steel industry, and then J&T Recycling Corporation within the JFE group. And then in the railway segment, there's the East Japan Railway Company and JR East Environment Access that are also investing in our company as well. And they are members of the JR East group. Our plant is located in Yokohama. We were established 3 years ago. And the processing capacity is 80 tons per day. And producing methane and generating power is our business portfolio. It is 11 million watts per hour that we can generate in our plant. And this is actually equivalent to generating power for 3,000 households. And in terms of CO2 reduction, it is an annual 5,500 tons. Converting that to fossil fuels, that's equivalent to 2,800 kiloliters of fossil fuels. There are four characteristics of our business. First of all, we are eco-friendly in our food recycling business. And without incinerating the materials, using microorganisms and the mechanism, we produce methane through fermentation process. And we offer one-stop services. That's other of our strengths. As showcased earlier on, two groups who are our investors, they can collect to transport and recycling, and also power sales as well. So it's one-stop services that we can serve the role of in this business model. And with the triple security mechanism that we have in Japan, there is illegal trading of frozen foods, for example. And that's a big concern amongst the delivery services. In order to put a stopgap to that illicit trading, we have the JFE Group factories that are located in the neighborhood that are not accessible by general consumers. And we also have the highly sensitive monitoring cameras for 24-hour surveillance, so that we can ensure safe and secure recycling of the food products that are delivered to us. And the fourth characteristic is that we are located in an extremely convenient location in Yokohama, so very accessible to the Tokyo region, which is the greatest food waste generator. And transportation cost can be minimized with this close proximity. So that's the fourth characteristic. To be specific, this is the territory of our business. So this radius of 50 kilometers is where we do business in, and the food waste being transported a long distance will drive cost, and so local production for local consumption is very important. And so we are very much doing business and concentrating our business in the vicinity area of where the plant is located. This is our business scheme. From the waste generators, the EJ&T Recycling Corporation and East Japan Railway have permits to do collection and transportation of these waste matters, and so they transport those materials to J-Bio for power generation. And then JFE Engineering retail sales, which is urban energy, they purchase the power that we generate at an FAT price of 39 yen. So I will elaborate on what kind of waste products, food waste products, are accepted at our plant. First, we have the food ingredients loaded on pallets, as you can see in this photo. Here we show you food whose best before date has been expired. And this is residues and waste, food waste from food preparation, from food processing plants as well as restaurants as well. And there are a lot of contaminants that would be mixed in with these food leftovers. And this is products actually in packages that are commonly sold. So it is in these state that you often see in the stores that are brought to us, where 15% of the total weight is plastic and paper. So we can insert this in the pit and segregate the organic matter from plastics, and we can do methane fermentation of the organic waste in our plant facilities. And then there's flexible container bags as well as drum containers that we also accept as well for waste treatment too. Here, this is the aerial view of our plant facilities. So the key facilities are, number one, the receiving pit, and adjacent to that we have the crusher facility. Number two is the fermentation tank. Number three is the gas holder, and the gas engine is fed gas from this gas holder to generate power. The footprint is a total of 7,000 square meters, and so it's a very compact facility that we operate here. This is the layout indicated in the form of a workflow. At the receiving pit, we receive the waste and it is crushed, and then the non-conformant materials, the plastics and other foreign matters, are segregated, and then the remaining organic waste is fed to the fermentation tank, and we ferment for a period of 20 days at a temperature of 36 degrees. And then the gas holder and the power generator will be fed the methane gas that is stored in the gas holder to be sold to the power provider. And this is a highly precise fermentation tank, and it's a capacity of 4,000 cubic meters. This is where we do the fermentation for a 20-day period at a temperature of 37 degrees, and the maximum gas generation is 600 liters. And this is the gas holder. The capacity is 1,500 cubic meters, and there are two gas engines that are operated with a power capacity of 900 kilowatts each. This is what we use for generating power. Last but not least, let me showcase our track record in our business as well as our plan for the future. This is the trend in receiving volume. Last year, we started in August. At the end of last year, I said that full capacity of 80 tons, and we were operating at a utilization rate of approximately 60% as of the end of 2018, which is in line with our plan. And we are to gradually phase our increase in acceptance volume so that we would like to achieve the maximum capacity utilization rate as of the end of 2021. So what kind of materials did we receive last year? This is a pie chart showing you the breakdown. In blue, we have the waste from food factories and food storage warehouses that account for 52% of the total. And the green portion here is waste delivered from restaurants, convenience stores, and supermarkets. This is general waste, which is accounting for 48% of our total receiving volume. And of this 52%, the large proportion is pet food, beverage, ice cream, cut vegetables, waste, for example. These are the things that we accept at our facility. Regarding our respect for the Sustainable Development Goals, because we do methane fermentation, we are very much in line with the goal number 7 as well as goal number 12, which are very closely related to our business. These goals are related to renewable energy and the increase thereof, as well as the reduction in waste generation. Utilizing recycling technologies, generating power is how we would like to contribute to achieving these Sustainable Development Goals. So with this kind of business that we operate, other than incinerated, can be handled to contribute to the local community overall. So that is all from myself. Thank you for your attention.
Mr. Kagayama, thank you very much. Now we have about 30 minutes for discussion time. And of course, from the floor, we would like to receive questions also. But before that, I have 1 or 2 questions from my side. Especially, Mr. Walsey and Mr. Kagayama, I want to ask you the question. What has been often said up to this point is that this type of business or this type of waste treatment in the urban areas, it's very difficult. I think that was the norm of understanding. And listening to Mr. Walsey and Mr. Kagayama, both of you said that even in urban cities where it can be done, it is already done. And it is moving forward. And you shared that. And that was a very encouraging point. However, the key point is that these type of businesses, are they going to be able to stand alone as a pure business? Or if they cannot continuously receive subsidy type of support, it will not stand as a business? I think that is an important point. With subsidy continuing the operation, that's possible, but that's not going to last long, or it cannot be broadly implemented into a society, is what I think. Therefore, from this background, what I would like to ask both of you is that the business that you are conducting right now, you receiving a tipping fee, that's included also, but as a business, do you think it is going to last long or stand alone, and can you actually expand it? further? I would like both of you to answer that question.
Basically, you are very right that, as you know, this is all a very new business and emerging technology. So initially to prove it and to set up the pilot projects, subsidies are needed and support are needed. But once, for example, now in Indore itself, we are coming up with 2 more big 200 TPD projects, ton per day capacity projects. They are all self-sustainable projects, and we are doing it on a PPP mod, just like any waste to energy. Wherein, again, I just want to share one more good thing. The tipping fee, what we'll be charging, will be half of the waste to energy plant, because it is a low-cost technology. So certainly we need waste to energy for the dry fraction and all. And secondly, we can have a combination wherein if we can use the dry fraction or the waste recyclable, which we can't do any recycling and all, and we can take all that material to waste to energy plants, we will get better output also, and the bottom edge generation will also reduce if we remove this organic fraction from the waste to energy technology. So that way, that technology will become more environment friendly also. And secondly, if we come up with this zero waste technologies, and if we support it, initial support is required so as to make it popularize. Once it is popularized and once you have the bigger capacities and all, then certainly on a tipping model, these projects can run. Thank you.
Thank you. 影山さんいかがでしょう。
Mr. Kageyama, please. Our plant, as a matter of fact, being sustainable, I would like to refer to the domestic situation where we are seeing facilities in greater amounts that are recycling food waste. With the FIT scheme being implemented in Japan, I think the profitability of these plants are enhancing. Over the past, so for the 20-year period, we are able to apply the FIT scheme, and therefore they should be able to recover their investments during that period. In the urban areas, if we are to launch this kind of business, the FIT system is actually the biggest advantage to facilitate doing their business. And then for waste that had originally been incinerated as from legacy waste, it would be in the interest of the government as well that they supply the waste to these recycling facilities. And 85 companies, leading companies that are focusing on this line of business to generate value. And therefore, in the world at large, the sentiment towards the importance of recycling as well as the implementation of the FIT scheme are certainly two drivers that can facilitate this line of business. As long as the FIT system continues, then we can be a viable business. Thank you very much.
私実はもう一つ質問がありましてですね、これは土井さんに。
Actually, I have one more question. I would like to ask Mr. Doi this question. For example, from this fall, city of Kyoto regarding solid waste, they will be separating out the organic waste, and they will be working on the recycling of that part. And you have shared that with us in your presentation. And also in India, from Mr. Walsey, as a case in India, it was mentioned that, for example, from oil, for the industry that handles oil, they are generating the greenhouse gas or emitting greenhouse gas. Therefore, they, towards these type of bio businesses, should provide support or actively be involved in such projects. And that is actually stipulated in the policies that India is coming up with. So when we think about those efforts in Japan, especially in the urban cities, where for the citizens, I think that I wonder if there is a opportunity for the citizens to participate in such thing, or the industry to participate in that thing. And in Japan, when Japan imports the coal and petroleum, they actually tax it based on the carbon footprint. And they're already paying the money to the government. So the money that is taxed or received from these petroleum or oil companies importing the coal and fossil fuel, can that be used for these efforts of new technology? What do you think about this? First of all, regarding the efforts done in the city of Kyoto, there's actually two main causes to move this forward. First is regarding the municipal solid waste. The largest volume of that waste was about 20 years ago. It was about 5,000 tons per annum. And due to the effect of the organic waste recycling law, now it is about 40 million tons per year. So it's about 10 million tons less. And due to this, the burden or impact to the landfill facility, which is the final treatment site, has been reduced. And so the citizens are putting their efforts into this. So from the very urgent situation that they have experienced in the past, they have come out of that. And now they want to further reduce the amount. And in order to do, though, what was left is the wet waste from the households. And in order to work on this, what is the most difficult is how can that be collected? The collection method has not been fully established yet. However, one way to make it easier is to have the biodegradable garbage bag to provide that, because the price of that is becoming lower now. So implement that. So for the wet waste from the household, that can be collected, put in this biodegradable garbage bag, and then recycle that into the final stage to become methane gas. And if this goes well, then we can further deploy this to other cities too. And that is why the Ministry of the Environment would like to put the efforts together with the citizens. And also using the energy material special account. We are using the energy-related special account with the companies to aim for treating the liquid fertilizer that's generated from creating a methane to treat that. And this project is ongoing right now. And if that moves forward, then this energy-related special account is going to be a major tool. That is all.
Thank you so much. So from the cities, how a perishable waste is collected is actually a very big issue. So I brought this with me. What is this? This is a bag. It's a paper bag. And we're talking about waste. So this is a paper bag that will collect, into which we collect waste. This is actually a bag utilized in Sweden for collecting municipal waste in each household. And it's once every 10 days or once every week that the vendor will come to collect. In Japanese households, can Japanese households accommodate this kind of system? I mean, that would be challenging in my opinion. But as was brought up earlier on, this kind of organic bag being utilized for collection will carry risks of contamination, like, for example, plastic material or maybe bamboo-made disposable chopsticks, and what needs to be done for segregating that contamination will have to be examined. And the person who is in charge of this in the Swedish authority said that that is the reason why the bag is small. Because if the bag is small, then the consumer will look for contaminants such as plastic material to be eliminated before they throw in some garbage. And that's the very reason why the bag is made small. That's the explanation that was given to me. And you cannot fill it to the top because you have to be able to fold it and close the bag. That's how much it can take. And then over a week or two, how many bags one will fill? I think about 6 or so, he said. Does not create odor? I store it in the refrigerator, he said. It seems like a joke, but if the household could generate this kind of organic waste in an efficient way without contaminants, so that would facilitate processing and treatment afterwards, changing the mindset of the people to implement this kind of system may be important in the future. In India, for example, taking the instance of India, in generating gases, power being generated is another further step that they take. But maybe gas in itself can be supplied to the industries. That's one idea. FIT system in Japan facilitates the retailing of electric power to be able to enjoy subsidies from the government. And in many ways, it is a challenging system to be implemented. In terms of increasing power supply, it's a good solution. But in terms of reducing waste, maybe it's effective just by reducing CO2 generation and not going so far as to recycling waste. So I was digressing here a bit. We have a little bit more than 10 minutes to go, so maybe we can receive questions from the floor. I wonder how many questions we will be able to answer. Maybe 2, perhaps. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. Yes, the gentleman there, please. My name is Saiki from TMG. I have been in charge of waste. My name is Saiki. One thing I would like to ask about to the Japanese speaker, first of all. Why is it that the 4-digit codes have not been implemented in treating waste? With industrial waste, for example, there are 2 different types: general waste and the contagious, infectious waste. You did not touch on those points at all, so that bothered me a bit. Because when we think about specific types of waste, how one handles it becomes a very big issue. And then also, the paper bag, according to what Ms. Onogawa said, the packages is part of the price of the product that one buys, correct? It costs like 3 yen or 5 yen, and that's part of the price that one pays for the product. And so if the volume of the package is small, then in relative terms we can reduce the overall waste generated. I don't think people typically think that far in the overall cycle. But then with that little change in mindset, I think we can influence greatly the volume of waste that is generated. And if we're talking about a 10-liter waste, 20-liter waste bag, then that will last maybe more than 1 week. And if the mindset of the people changed in that way, I think that would bring about a lot of difference. And then in Japan, for the combustible waste, for example, those are transported to the incineration plants, and there are turbines that are operated to incinerating. And this is something that I heard from the vendor. According to that vendor, there is a issue about the incineration furnace because capital expenditure is required in large amounts because the service life of the incineration furnace is not that long. Because of the high temperature that it has to operate at, the service life of the furnace is very short. And so without burning, incinerating the combustible waste there, non-combustible waste should be combined together. And that's actually the story that I heard about from the vendor. And it's just very recently that they started to combine both the combustible and combustible waste together in order to make sure that they can prolong the service life of the incineration furnaces. And then there is the waste code. Yes. Well, the question that was just asked, given the fact that we are talking about and just focusing on how we treat organic waste, so from that standpoint, how should I handle that question? Maybe the respondent, can answer from the perspective of how we handle organic waste. As Onogawa-san mentioned, there are different types of waste, and the theme here is very limited. And then, in the interest of time, I did not talk about the topic that you commented you were concerned we did not raise, and about the different types of incineration furnaces, and depending on the period in which it was installed, I think countermeasures are needed so that the temperature does not rise to too high a temperature. Whether or not it's wise to mix the combustible waste together with the incombustible waste to burn is actually a matter that will further require scrutiny. And so the national government as well as the municipality will have to take into consideration. And I think through considerations, this is the outcome in order for us to create a material cyclic society. This is a continual agenda that we will have to continue. And so I will take your message to heart as we continue our examinations. Is there any other question, please, from the floor?
Please go ahead.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Can you introduce yourself?
Sorry, yes. My name is Andante from Waseda University. My question is directed to Mr. Shet Asad Aliwarsi. Thank you for sharing the experience in India. It's very interesting. My question is related to your cost-benefit analysis. I found it very interesting. It shows that the higher the capacity get, up to 100 ton per day, the shorter the payback time period becomes. Do you think this is a trend, or do you think it will get even bigger, something will backfire? I'm thinking about, for example, the transportation costs will get higher as the capacity gets bigger. But then again, you also produce the bio-CNG, so maybe that also comes into place. What is your thought on this issue? And then following that, also on transportation, do you find the problem of the leachate water, the liquid fertilizer, as experienced in Japan, where there is no market for the liquid fertilizer? Do you think this is also an issue in Indian situation or not, considering that the agriculture and the forestry are happening in more rural area while the municipal waste are generated in the urban area? So what is your thought in this area? Thank you.
Thank you. Basically, you have asked three questions. First of all, about the scalability. So, as per our study, up to 200 TPD, whatsoever I have shown is a viable proposition, and the payback period is good enough. If you, again, the capacity, if it exceeds more than 200 TPD, then the cost of transportation and other issues may rise. And this is what I want to make clear. Secondly, when we talk of this leachate or the liquid waste, again, we have come up with 2-3 companies who are there into this liquid fertilizer, organic liquid fertilizers, and we have tied up with them. They are taking it and then they are putting in some additives and they are enhancing the fertilizer quality, and then they are selling it into the market. And again, when you have to use it into the farms, they are coming up with the proposition of the dilutions also, that what should be the ratio of dilution and all, and in 1 hectare how much should be along with various additives and all you should. So if there are companies in India who are into this business and they are taking all the liquid waste whatsoever coming out of it. Secondly, for up to 40 days, we can recycle back. If we have this solid liquid separation unit into the system, that is a must. And then whatsoever once you remove the all solid components, so you can recycle this water well within the process for slurry formation for something around 40 to 45 days. So only once in something around 40 to 45 days, you have to remove the leachate. It is not so that you on a daily basis that leachate removal is required. So again, that is where it is very important that we have to go into the finer details of the technology. We have to optimize it and then we have to utilize it. And that is what, luckily we have done it. We have been working on this technology since last almost 8 to 10 years. And in last 2 years, we succeeded and we come up with all these propositions. So now it is a proven and a successful technology and adopted by the government of India. Thank you.
どうもありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. There's just one more point that I would like to raise here at this time. So after this waste treatment in liquid form, there is a waste liquid generated. How that can be viably used or treated is actually one of the very big issues that has to be tackled. And on that point, there's a session following this. This is until 1:30, and I think the next session starts at 3 o'clock. Starting at 3 o'clock, the session will focus on the rural areas and their treatment methodologies that they adopt that we would like to focus on. Those of you who are interested in that topic, please do come. We would welcome you.
Donald Eubank from the Read the Air group. The J-Bio and the Eco projects look fantastic. I'm very curious though, because you're depending on waste. From a circular perspective, food waste is a big problem as well. And it happens many points along the supply chain, but in terms of the end user, whether it's an individual or an organization, what are the panelists thinking around the impact of relying on waste to have that waste available to you and maybe to disincentivize changing the behavior of the user to prevent waste in the first place?
影山さんはまずですね、このセッション
Mr. Kageyama, you are with us until 1:30, and so he has to leave at 1:30. So starting with Kageyama-san, perhaps you can comment on that question? And then afterwards, the other speakers could perhaps speak as well. I just want to confirm about the question.
Question again, please. Yeah.
Now, of course, with food loss, prioritizing the reduction of waste is, of course, first and foremost a priority agenda. But even so, there is food waste that is generated. Rather than incinerating that waste, the methane fermentation process can very much viably use that. And so looking at reducing waste and reducing food loss is, of course, the priority agenda, to your point.
Want to add one more thing. Basically, first focus, when we talk of 3R, our focus should be the reduction on food waste, particularly the usable cooked food waste, which is being wasted in a big quantities. So first focus should be that how to utilize it and how to feed it to the people who need it. The first focus should be that. And for that very reason, I just want to share, in India, we have come up with the concept of food banks. So to all the hotels and restaurants, we ask them to put this leftover food. We have put in refrigerators. They have to pack it and they have to keep it. And particularly nearby to all the hospitals, at bus stations, at airport and everywhere. So whosoever need that food, they can take it and they can utilize it. So this is how we can practice for when we talk of reduction of waste. But very rightly said by my counterpart that again, even after reduction and everything, you will be left out with the food. And again, I want to answer one more question about that incineration. I have been in touch with some German universities, and recently the professor from Berlin Technical University, he told me that in Germany, they do have incineration, first of all, and the entire waste is being used into this biomethanization process, whatsoever food waste is there or the organic waste is there. Then from the dry waste, they recycle around 65 to 75%, and the remaining 30 to 35% is only sent to waste-to-energy plant. And this is why Germany, being such a big country, is a zero landfill country, and they are practicing it. And accordingly, they have set in their all SDGs and all, and they are following it. Thank you.
Perhaps just one point from my side with regards to the circularity, and food waste is definitely a huge issue that we see across the world. And yes, minimization should be the priority focus. We do argue that incineration with regard to the organic component is a challenging issue, especially we see this as a challenging issue in countries where they have a small, for example, land capacity, where they don't have a possibility to have lots of land filling. So, for example, I made the reference earlier to small island developing states, where there are a lot of technology providers for incineration that ask, for example, small island developing countries to have incineration capacity there. What I believe is that there is, the point has been made already from the other speakers, there will be, even if minimization is brought to a maximum, there will be an extent of food loss. Then the question of how sustainable plants that focus only on incinerating that organic component will be, that is a question. That is a big question, basically. And I think that it's important that whenever they plan for this kind of plants, that question gets considered into the economics of the investment.
じゃあ土井さんから。はい。
I believe various measures are implemented. However, what I personally have the most interest and most expectation is the IT, meaning that smartphones, payment, and reservation system, I think, is a very effective, meaning that especially in Japan, in various seasons, in each season, people select specific food material and eat it. Recently, there's this thing called ehomaki, which is a rolled sushi that you eat facing a certain direction every February. But anyway, those type of eating type, those kind of things is becoming trendy. But from that, because large amounts are created or manufactured, that there's a lot of loss of this. So this year, these manufacturing companies have taken reservations or bookings of how many of these roll sushis people want. So there's this app or technology that exists on the mobile phone. And even though a certain meal is booked, and if the person doesn't come and get it, we'll be able to resolve that issue. So the smartphones apps is one tool to use. And so in Japan, the lower birth rate and aging society is advancing. And as the society ages, the appetite becomes smaller. And people need smaller portions of what they eat. So various materials and food products that respond to that are coming out into the market. Therefore, utilizing that may work for reducing the food loss and also responding to the needs of the changing society. Therefore, with the businesses, I would like to deepen our discussions. That is all. Thank you very much.
それでは
Thank you very much. It is now 35 minutes past 1. We have extended our time by 5 minutes. With those comments, we would like to close this thematic session. Last but not least, I thank the speakers very much for their attendance. Thank you.